I've made over $200,000 trading prop firms, but it wasn't always like this. I used to have very little success with passing challenges. I used to blow them all the time, and when I did get funded, I'd rarely get a payout. And I'll just sit there wondering, when am I ever going to hit my first 10k per month? It wasn't until I learned how to play the game of prop firms that everything changed. The art of the challenge phase, the mindset that's needed for consistent success, the funded phase, what to do in there, and how to scale. That's when everything clicked. That's why in this series, I'm going to go over everything that you need to go from 0 to 10k per month using prop firms. Each video in this series, I've carefully curated it to cover all the critical components that I think every trader needs to address for them to be able to have success with prop firms. And today in episode 1 of the How to Beat Prop Firms the Right Way series, I'm going to be talking about challenges. I'm going to share with you everything that I've learned about the challenge phase through trial and error that's going to allow you to have more success consistently with the challenge phase. I'm going to share with you the small details that make the biggest difference when in the challenge phase. And I'm literally going to give you guys the formula for passing challenges that I use, that I've came up with through trial and error, that's going to allow you to pass challenges as quickly as possible whilst maintaining a good risk management as possible. This is the formula that's allowed me to be able to scale and get funded and be able to scale to over 6 figures in profits trading prop firms. So if that sounds good, be sure to stick around and watch this video all the way through to the end, because you're not going to miss out on this. All right, let's get into it. All right, so how to beat prop firms the right way. This is all going to be one of the most important videos in this 7-part series, because if you can't pass challenges, you can't get payouts. And if you can't consistently pass challenges, you can't consistently get paid. So knowing how to pass challenges and knowing how to navigate the challenge phase is super important and is vital for your success. Be sure to stick around and watch this video all the way through to them, because I'm going to be sharing some pretty interesting stuff, and you're going to see as we progress further into this video just how you can consistently do this and actually start getting closer to success. Because I know some of you guys want to get to your first 10k per month, which is the whole point of this series, and it's to help you get to your first 10k per month with prop firms and beyond, because I truly believe that you can get there, but you just have to do things the right way. All right, so before we get super deep into the video and I'll show you guys a method that I use that allows me to consistently pass challenges, I'll show you the full formula. We first need to understand the challenge philosophy of prop firms, because if we don't understand this, I promise you right now, you're not going to be seen as the most amount of success that you should be seeing with challenges as you should. So it's very important that you guys pay attention to this stuff as well, because everything matters. And as you're going to see as when we get close to the end of the video, how it all comes together. So one thing you guys need to understand is that the truth about prop firms, which is that they're not built for you to win. Prop firms make money when you lose money, and it's a net negative game for them. They want traders to go in, pay for challenges, and then they're banking on the, obviously, you know, the rule around trading that 90% of traders lose money. So they're banking on 90% of traders losing and failing, and that's how they make their bankroll, so they can actually pay out traders who are actually making money, which are the 10%. So if you want to be in the 10%, you need to understand the rule that prop firms are not in the business for you to make money. I know there's a lot of changes that have happened in the prop firm game, which I'm going to cover and talk about with you guys and how to navigate that, but you really need to understand that they're not in it for you to win. So the rules they give you, the rules that are in place, it's all designed for you to lose. You know, they might say, oh no, try trade this way to get the best success, but you got to think about it. If a business is in its best interest for you to lose, why would you take their advice on how to pass their challenges? Do you understand? How does that make sense? It's like, it doesn't make sense. So don't listen to what they tell you when they tell you about, oh yeah, you know, take your time in the challenge phase, you know, you need to slow down and do things, risk 0.5%, risk 1% per trade, and slowly build your account and then actually pass. No. The reason why they say that is because the longer you stay in the challenge phase, the harder it actually becomes to actually pass that challenge, because you're going to develop what I call challenge fatigue. And challenge fatigue is just being in the challenge phase for too long and not seeing actual any progress. Because think about it, you might make 1% here, you might lose it. Before you know it, you're in drawdown, and then now you're trying to get through the drawdown phase, trying to rebuild back up, and all of this is happening in a point where you're actually not making any money, where you actually haven't put yourself in a position to actually make money. So I really and truly believe that taking it slow in the challenge phase is complete bullshit. That's just my opinion. That's what I found to work for me. You need to be able to pass the challenge phase as quickly as possible whilst maintaining a degree of risk as possible, of risk management as possible. That allows you to get through that challenge phase quickly, because there's no net return in the challenge phase. And I'm going to show you guys my formula for passing challenges fast whilst still maintaining a degree of risk management, right? We're going to get to that. But there's no point in spending time in the challenge phase. There's no point. It's a waste of time. And what's going to happen is, well, not only are you going to get challenge fatigue, which is actually going to increase your chance of you actually failing the challenge in the end, but also what's going to happen is that you got to think about it from an opportunity cost. The longer you stay in a phase where you're actually not making money, think about it. You might spend 30 days, right, in the challenge phase, but think about how many good trading days might come by way of being in that challenge phase. So let's say on your first day you took a loss and now you're in drawdown, but then you spend the next 2-3 weeks trying to build back out of drawdown, and you catch some really good trades. But all those good trades that you've caught are all going to getting out of drawdown or getting to passing the challenge. So that's an opportunity cost that's happened there. Whereas let's say you would have passed within the first 2 days or within the first week, you can still capitalize on those good trading days that are going to come. So it's actually an opportunity cost that you might not even consider and think about, that actually does affect you, because that's an opportunity where if you had gone through that challenge phase quickly instead of taking time, you would have been in a position where if that opportunity to be able to capitalize on those good trading days had come around, you'd have actually been able to be in a position to actually capitalize on them and actually make real money from them. All right, so when it comes to buying challenges, I recommend these two platforms to start with: Lucid Trading or Tradify. These are my recommendation for platforms to start with, and the models you should start with within those platforms, because these platforms have, like all of them, they all have different models. They've got like, straight to funded, they've got like different types of models, but these are the best models that I've selected here that allow you to get to that point where you can actually start making money as fast as possible and without as much rules in the way as possible for you guys to actually get to that payout. These guys are kind of dominating, they're growing super fast. I'm not even an affiliate with Lucid Trading. I don't know why they won't let me be an affiliate, but guys, if you do get a challenge with Tradify, use code GTD at checkout if you do find value in this video. But yeah, Lucid Trading and Tradify. So I recommend with Lucid Trading, you go for the Lucid Flex model, and you go for the 50k. The reason why I go for the 50k, because if we're starting, I want to get to 10k per month. We don't want to be spending too much money out of the bat, and we don't want to be putting ourselves in the negative too much. So we start with a challenge phase and a challenge account, that's reasonably priced and that has a decent amount of drawdown that we can actually utilize to be able to compound and actually turn it into a profit. So I find the Lucid Flex model with Lucid Trading works the best, because you can pass in 2 days, because I have a 50% consistency in the challenge phase. That got no consistency in the funding phase, which is very important. So you don't need to you're not limited to how much you can make in the funded phase. So you can, you might catch a nice big runner, you might catch a big winner, and that's not going to be penalized, and you're not going to have to make that amount to match the consistency rule. So that really helps, and that's why I really recommended the Lucid Flex model, is because it complements a lot of traders' trading styles, because a lot of people may like to trade big R's, a lot of people like to trade basics and smaller profits. So that accounts for everyone, and you don't need to be stressing about when you're gonna am I in a consistent, I need to make this much. So as soon as you make money and you hit your $550 days, you're gonna be eligible for a payout once you're in funded phase. Obviously there's no buffer required to get a payout, so you don't need to make like $2,000 to be able to start getting paid. If you just make your $550 days, you're actually eligible to get paid, and you're all eligible to get 50% of what you pay out. So if you make $2,000 and you go to withdraw, you're actually allowed to withdraw $1,000, because it's 50% of your payout, and then you have $1,000 left in your account, and then you're allowed to get a max payout of $2,000 in each cycle. So if you make $5,000 in the payout cycle, you're only allowed to withdraw $2,000 of that, which is quite similar to most platforms. With the 50k models, they all allow you around the $2,000 mark to $3,000 mark, so it's not a big difference. So it's very important that you guys think about that and consider that when you're actually going to get the challenge. And that's why I've selected this model, because it's one of the easiest to pass. And once you see the model and the formula I'm going to give you guys for passing these challenges, you're actually going to see how it's so simple to pass this challenge, and now you can do it fairly quickly and actually get to a point where you can actually start potentially making money. Now, with these prop funds, before we get into the Tradify model and what they have, right? The new thing around with prop firms now, so I would say obviously always start with one account, but with these new rules around prop firms, as you can see, I don't know if you guys are on Twitter or you guys are just in the prop firm space, but what's going on around right now in the prop firm space is that a lot of these prop firms now are moving traders into live trading super fast, so into the live trading model super fast. So before you'd be like, you have to get like 3 to 4 payouts, between 3 and 5 payouts, and then you're potentially allowed to move into a live. And once you get moved to live, you can't actually trade with the challenges, and you're in a live account and you're not allowed to buy challenges. You're not allowed to actually scale that way. You're not allowed, like, if you have one account and you get moved to live, you're only gonna have one account in live. There's no this compounding factor where you can have like multiple accounts in a live account. So prop firms are actually moving people into live trading super fast, and a lot of people are noticing with Top Step, like you might make $20,000 in a day, right, or whatever, and then you might withdraw one payout, and then boom, next minute you'll get moved to live, and then in the live you're not actually even allowed to use all that money, and you have to hit certain goals to be able to achieve it. So as you can see, that's happening a lot. It's because they're just trying to cut the bottom line in terms of costs, because the quicker they can put guys in the live funded area, they can also make money from the funded, because obviously they're going to be copy trading them their accounts, but they also don't go out of pocket in terms of paying you, because if you're getting paid from a funded simulated funded account, you're actually getting paid from the challenge fees that they get. So them it's happening a lot. So a lot of prop firms are moving people into live super fast. So I recommend, guys, that you at least buy 2 accounts at a time if you're gonna trade. Because if you start with one, right, the reason why I say 2 or more, and you try to get as close to the max funding as possible, because the reason why I said that is because let's say you only buy one account, right, and you start doing well in that account, right, you don't know when you're gonna get moved to live. So let's say you get moved to live within like 2 payouts, and you've only made $4,000. Let's say you hit the max payout for each payout cycle, right? You only made like $4,000. So you're actually not utilizing the compounding or the copy trading effect formula for that. So if you get more than one account, if you're getting a payout, you're getting twice that amount, and then you can use that to try get to max funding quick, so you can actually start getting payouts across, let's say, 5 accounts, which is like the typical max accounts per person can have. So the whole message is try get to max accounts as fast as possible, whilst still staying in the early stages of the payouts as possible, because then if you do get moved to live, then you're getting moved to live with 500 accounts. So that's going to be 500 accounts. If they're 50k accounts, that's going to be 2,000 times 5. So you're going to be getting moved to live with $10,000 in as a starting balance, instead of getting moved to live with 1 or 2 accounts where you're only going to have $4,000 in funding. So the game now is try get to max accounts as quickly as possible, because you just don't know when you're going to get moved to live. Another prop firm, obviously Tradify, I recommend use the select model. I don't know, I said flex there, but it's called the select model. It's the 50k account again. It's $99. They have a 40% inconsistency rule in the challenge phase, so that means that you can pass in 3 days. There's no consistency rule in the funded phase, no activation fees. There's a max payout per payout cycle of $3,000, and again, you're only allowed 50% off what you can make per payout to request, right? So if you make $6,000, you're only allowed to withdraw 50% of that. So you're allowed to withdraw the max payout in this case, which is $3,000. So you'll be eligible to withdraw $3,000. There is no buffer for the payout that's required. So as soon as you hit your $550 days, you're eligible for a payout. So make a little bit of money. If you're gonna start with one account, build up, make a bit of money, withdraw, and that first payout automatically go to buying more accounts, so you can build up your max funding as quickly as possible, because that's a new game with these new live trading models that are being utilized now a lot more. Before it was like live trading was preserved for like only the best traders. Now they've noticed that actually moving people to live is actually a lot more cost efficient, so they're going to start doing that a lot more. So just be aware of that and just understand the game you're playing now. And that is what it is, guys. Let's get into actually how to pass the challenges fast, and the formula that I've used that's worked for me, that's allowed me to get to over $200,000 in payouts. All right, so the best way to consistently pass fast. All right, so this is gonna be a 50K account example. Let's say you have a 50K account size. All right, so that means you're gonna have about $2,000 in drawdown. In the challenge phase, what you're gonna want to do, right, is if you're gonna take your $2,000, which is your overall drawdown, you're gonna divide it by 4, so that's gonna give you a total of $500 per trade. So because you have a 50% consistency rule and you have a profit target of $3,000, right, you're gonna aim to make a 3-to-1, which is I actually meant to put 3-to-1 here. So you're gonna aim to make a 3-to-1, which is that's gonna be $500, aiming to make a 3-to-1. Let's just change it here actually. $500 aiming to make a 3-to-1 times 2 trades. That's gonna allow you to pass within 2 days. Of course, you can actually go for a 2-to-1, but you're gonna have to take 3 trades, right, to be able to pass, and that's gonna be, you're gonna be able to pass in, like, 3 days. But if you're gonna pass quicker and you wanna pass within the fastest time frame possible, aiming for a 3-to-1 on a trade, risking $500 per trade, that's reasonable. That's achievable, and that's very doable. Within 2 trades, you should be able to pass. So if you lose that first trade that you take, you're gonna half your risk and to $250 per trade, and you're gonna risk $250 per trade until you get back to break even and your drawdown is at 2,000 again. Then you restart the cycle to risking $500 per trade, aiming for a 3-to-1 until you pass. So you take a loss, you half your risk until you get back to break even, and then you restart the cycle. This way, what you're gonna do is actually gonna give you more chances to actually be able to pass. But you're gonna see, because by the way you're doing it, you might take a loss in the first trade and then you might win the next 2 trades. But then if you win the next 2 trades, that means you've actually passed the first stage of phase 1, because you've hit your consistency rule mark. You see what I'm saying? So it's very important to utilize this formula if you're going to be trying to pass fairly quickly. Of course, if you're trading with Tradify, they have a 40% consistency rule. So that means that you're going to take $3,000, which is the profit target. You're going to divide that. You're going to get the consistency rule, so which is about what, $3,000. It's like $1,200. The 40%, the consistency rule. So the most you can make within a day is actually $1,200. So that means you can actually take the $500 per trade, aiming for like what, a 1:2.8 or something like that, 1:2.8, or you can either do $400, so even cut down your risk even more, which is to $400 per trade, aiming for a 3-to-1. So that's going to give you the 1200, and then your last trading day is going to be $600 to actually hit the profit target. We're not being too over leveraged that we're going to blow on our account in 1 trade, but we're using quite a decent amount of our account size to actually leverage that to being able to pass fairly quickly. And if we take a loss, we scale back our risk and we try to get back to break even, and then we're just gonna keep doing that until we pass. And you're gonna see, by peddling it this way, you're actually gonna be able to pass fairly quickly. I hope you guys find a ton of value in this video. Let me know in the comments below as well what you're struggling with prop firms, what you need help with, what sort of videos I can make. Be sure to go check out my video where I talk about, what I've learned from making, over 6 figures in payouts. That's a really interesting video. Be sure you go check that out. Be sure to be on the lookout for the next episode of this 7-part series that's dropping on how to beat prop firms the right way. The next episode is going to cover a very, very fundamental and important part of this whole journey, and it's going to be crucial for you to having success. This video in itself is so important, and just by virtue of you guys engaging and tuning into this video, you're going to see that your success with prop firm is actually going to increase just by virtue of you implementing what I've shared with you guys and the mentality I've instilled with you guys within the video. And I'll see you guys in the next episode.